Happy New Year! Oh man, that makes an awful sound. So, here we are, brand new year, but before we can move forward and look at the films of 2020, we got to take a look back and take care of the last film I didn't get a chance to see in 2019. So technically still a 2019 review. However, before we get to business, let's talk a little about pleasure. So, if you saw my Cats review, I mentioned in that my previous car of 15 years, the Blackadder, had its day. It has gone to St. Jude's to hopefully help out someone else in need. Very touching, very sad, of course. But in everything, as the doctor says, we're all changing throughout our lives, and change is good. And just as Joel had to escape from the satellite of love to make room for Mike, just as Frank Burns had to go AWOL from the 4077 to bring us Charles Emerson Winchester III, just as Jason, Trini, and Zach had to go to a peace conference to make room for Rocky, Aisha, and Adam, so too, when we lose one beloved character, we introduce another. And here we are in our new digs. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you, the Drive Home Review audience, the Frog Zord. And if you get that reference, good on you. So as you can see, we're still trying to figure out things like placement. Where do we put things? You can see some of the guys are still, they're a little low. Some of them are trying the back seat. We're trying things. It's going to take us a little while to get situated. Speaking of which, taking me a little while to get started here, but you can't hold out forever. We got to talk about this movie. So I think I've mentioned this in previous Star Wars movies. Because of when they come out, I don't usually go see them until at least a month after they've been out for a while. So I work very hard to try to avoid spoilers, or more to the point, not even so much spoilers I'm worried about. I try to avoid the other fanboys. I've mentioned this before too, and I'll mention it again. I'm kind of dulled on Star Wars. And what's dulled me about Star Wars is not so much just the movies, but the fan base has just soured me to the entire experience, because it goes in this same perpetual cycle. New trailer comes out, everybody, oh my god, it's the greatest thing ever, oh my god, gotta go buy my ticket for the midnight screening 5 months in advance, oh my god, it's the greatest thing, Star Wars is back, yay! Star Wars opens, and then we spend the next 20 years bitching about it. And I'm involved in that too. I'm not saying I'm innocent. I did my fair share of kvetching about Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So I'm not saying I'm innocent. I was a part of this too. But at some point around The Last Jedi, honestly, to me it just became too much. This constant berating and whining and screaming about anything, and I don't know. I was very cautious. I have an idea of how people feel about this one, but I don't know yet. So I'm trying to come in as neutral as I can, and coming in as neutral as I can to what is supposed to be the ending of an epic, the ending of a saga, the ending of the Star Wars story, which, I gotta say this, folks, we've already had that. It was called Return of the Jedi. Anywho, so after seeing this great thing, I'm left with a resounding I just could not get into it. I just couldn't get into it. And I believe the fault for that lies in a couple of points. And it's easy to place blame when you don't know the whole story. And I think that's part of the problem, is not knowing the whole story. But I think if I had to venture a guess, the fault in my eyes, Brutus, falls on two major sources: the studio and the director. This thing, to me, reeks of J.J. Abrams, and not in the good way. J.J. Abrams, for those who, are too young to remember Lost or have tried very hard to forget Lost, is one of these great, we've got everything figured out. We know everything that's going to happen. We know the whole story. And as the story unfolds, it becomes very clear that they do not. They are making it up as they go along. This film feels to me like a combination of that we honestly didn't know what the end point was going to be, that we thought it was going to be one thing, which we set up in The Last Jedi, but then this thing also reeks of compromise. It feels to me like, due to fanboy whining, bitching, and crying about The Last Jedi, they went back and said, okay, we've got to get the fans back. Let's change all the plans that we had and come up with, with something else. And I think the major thing about this, since this is like over a month past, the opening, I don't care about spoilers. I'm going to talk about the movie. And if I spoil things, I spoil things. So, and you get that feeling right out the gate with the thing that, the trailers kind of let you know was going to happen, but you thought, okay, they're going to save this up. It's going to be like a big reveal at the end. No, right out the gate, Palpatine's back. Boom! You're like, the fuck? When did that happen? So we got to bring the Emperor back. We got to start tying all these things together. This film, for being as long as it is, and it is long, it feels unbelievably rushed. Like the first half hour to an hour, you're jumping from place to place, to point to point. We got to go here, we got to go there, we got to go this, we got to go see this person, we got to go talk to that person, we got to find this thing. Boom, 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 boom. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Nothing is given any time to breathe. The character, we're introduced to the three characters again of, Rey, Finn, and Poe, and they're all like, oh, hey, we're the best of friends. It's like, I don't think Poe ever had a scene with Rey previous to this. I'm really searching my memory to think of it. Did they share a scene? Did they ever have a line together? But now they're acting like they're the new Holy Trinity, the new Han, Leia, and Luke. It's like, no, you don't get to just say that because this person was in the other two movies that now these three have a bond that can never be broken. This is not Ron, Hermione, and Harry. It's just not. Now, if you had Rey and Finn just go on the journey, okay, I would have bought that. They have history. They have a story that needs to get resolved. Or not so much resolved, but you can explore it a bit. But now you're just throwing these two together going, okay, you're best buddies now. Or even if it was Poe and Finn going on a mission together. Fair enough. No. This movie is constantly looking for praise and looking for payoffs that it didn't earn. Okay. So we have that issue. Just zipping right into it, no build up, everything's rushed. We have this other problem with, especially with everything rushed. Boy, howdy do we get the new fucking characters. I was talking to a dear friend of mine, and she was saying that her major gripe was she felt like this film bowed to fanboy whining with the reduction of the character of Rose. And I agree, 100%. Rose, a character that we met in The Last Jedi, and actually had spent time with, one of our major characters had formed a bond with, and it looked like they were on their way to a romantic relationship or something. She is barely in this. She comes in high, and that's pretty much fucking it. But we're introduced to new female characters. You like this female character? You like this female character? Because the fanboys, for some fucking reason, took umbrage with that character. Because their tiny little male egos were hurt. Star Wars is too woke now. So she's out. Here, all new characters. Here's this girl kind of looks like Boba Fett. You like Boba Fett, don't you, fanboys? Well, here's a girl, Boba Fett. This one over here. This is basically a female Finn. You like Finn, don't you? Well, here's a female Finn. So you get all these new characters introduced out of nowhere who now we're supposed to have emotional stakes with. And none of it is earned. Not a bit of it. And that's also the way it feels with the final battle there, which they try very hard to sell as like Avengers Endgame, final battle, everybody comes back and all this, and it just doesn't get the reaction from me. Mainly because it's just a bunch of ships. There are no people in there that we have come to love or know. A bunch of people. They introduced. I'm going to be rude here. I don't mean to be rude because I'm in no place to talk, especially after the holidays. There's this new fat guy who's at the Rebel base, and he's walking around and talking a lot, and he gets blown up in the final battle. We're like, no! And it's like, do we know him? Are we sad? Okay, I guess we're sad. No, not that guy. It's like Porkins from the original. Like Porkins, nothing. Sad. So it doesn't have the emotional punch that it really needs. I also feel like this story, again, reeks of retconning and changing up. One of the things I talked about in my review of The Last Jedi is one of the things I really liked about that movie is the revelation that Rey was really Rey from nowhere. Her parents were nobody. She was a random person that the Force just suddenly clicked inside of. And I liked that. I liked that idea that Star Wars was finally getting away from the chosen one, hero of destiny narrative that has been the overarching theme of just about all of it, from the prequels to the original trilogy to it looked like they weren't going to go with this one. That our hero was going to be what Luke Skywalker was originally supposed to be. A person from nowhere who happened to be destined for great things. Nope! Retcon that shit. Rey is now Palpatine's granddaughter. Okay. I guess it makes it because people were upset because she was Rey from nowhere. At least that's the way it seems to me. If this really was their plan from the out, it certainly doesn't feel like that in the execution. It feels rushed. It feels uninspired. It's just kind of sitting there. Meanwhile, all of the stories that we have been invested in, and I think that was one thing that the two previous films to this one definitely did really well, was give us these new characters. Rey, I loved Rey as a character. I loved Finn as a character. Here, their stories are pushed to the side to fulfill this thing that they have to do of, we've got to wrap up the entire saga. We have to wrap up the entire Star Wars saga. No, you don't. You just have to wrap up your 3. Nobody said you had to do... Again, the saga had an ending. It was called Return of the Jedi. And I think that's one of the big problems with this, is that, okay, love them, hate them, or not, let's talk about the prequels for a second. Prequels, self-contained story. All right? The rise and fall of a hero. Let's not talk about how well it's done, or if you liked it, or if you hate midichlorians, or whatever. Rise and fall of a hero. Great. The original trilogy. the redemption of a hero, and the reforming of a family. Okay, there you go. Done. This film, and these two look like they were going towards a new direction, a resurrection of an ancient dynasty, but for a modern time. But all of that fun stuff, the things with Rey, the battle within Kylo Ren, all of that seems like it's pushed to the side because we've got to somehow fit this into all of the other movies to now make it a complete saga, as opposed to 3 standalone trilogies that, when you put them together, make an entertaining whole. What gets me is that Disney owns the studio that has mastered this. They own Marvel. And the Marvel films are masters of this. You can go and watch the 3 Captain America movies on their own and enjoy them as a complete story arc. Same with the 3 Thors. Same with the 3 Iron Man films. You can do that. But when you watch all of them, they form a larger story, but you can appreciate the smaller stories inside them. This film isn't interested in wrapping up its smaller story and finding its place within the whole. It has to be the epic conclusion to the whole bloody thing. Was this a terrible movie? No, I didn't hate it. I thought it had some good stuff in it visually. Very nice. One thing I've liked about the new trilogy as opposed to the prequels is that it does rely more on masks and puppetry and creatures. It makes the world feel real. But the converse of that is, because now you can do so much with CGI, none of the ships, none of the space battles feel like they have any weight. I know that sounds stupid, because they're in space, and technically nothing would have weight in space. Hence the term weightlessness. But, I don't know. The fact that the older ones were models, and they could only move so much, I don't know, made them feel more tangible. Here they're zipping in and out and everything, and I don't know. That's a personal thing. I'm certainly not suggesting they go and try to do all this with models. I'm certainly not suggesting that. I don't know. I just think they get a little carried away with CGI. Just a little. Again, not in a bad way. Just for me. I don't know. I'm really racking my brain trying to think of stuff I really liked in this movie. Again, I didn't hate it. It was not a terrible movie, but I don't know. I guess my disappointment is going to be different from everybody else's disappointment, because the disappointment for me is, I thought after The Last Jedi, again, not a perfect movie, but one that did something new and interesting with the story. And I thought, okay, this is taking the whole franchise in a new, fun direction. And I really feel like it didn't. They wimped out. They listened to all the fanboys. They listened to the whining and the crying and about piddly shit. And I feel like this thing doesn't have the commitment that The Last Jedi set up. I know I'm alone in that, but character deaths and big moments are not treated with any kind of weight. Almost all of the remaining cast has some kind of tragedy or, loss or something. They do this whole thing with 3PO where they're going to wipe his memory. And, the other characters, Rey, Poe, and Finn, are treating it like a joke. And he's the character, a character that a lot of us grew up with. I love C-3PO. He's treated like a joke. His memory's getting erased. All he is and all he was is no longer there. Ha 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 ha. It's played for laughs. And that's fine, but the problem is the other character, 3PO himself, is trying to play it serious and trying to elicit an emotional response from you. Kylo Ren's turn back to the right side is, I don't know, it's just, it doesn't feel as complete as Vader's turn back to the light. You know, it feels rushed and out of nowhere, and like, oh, fuck! Alright, I guess I'm good now. I also hate, this is the thing with this whole series, it worked with Vader. It worked with Vader because we didn't know we were going to get 6 more of these damn things. But I hate how Kylo Ren, he redeems himself and then immediately dies and fades away. It's like, so I'm sitting there thinking, you know, there's got to be some kind of consequence for this, right? Like, is he just going to walk out there at the final celebration and say, hey there, I'm good now. All's forgiven. Yay! You know, I was like, so he doesn't really escape, but he escapes all kinds of consequences, really. I don't know. Like I say, I'm racking my brain really trying to come up with something about this film that I was like, oh, that was really well done, or, you know, that happened just the way I want, and I'm getting nothing. And again, I can't say I hated this movie. I just feel very blasé towards it. It didn't do anything for me. It didn't touch me. It didn't really excite me. Like I say, they blew their lead, or their biggest secret, that Palpatine was alive, like in the fucking trailer, and didn't even pretend like it was a mystery. So this film just, to me, feels like a compromise. It really does. So I feel like I'm going around in circles. So let's wrap up this, and let's wrap up 2019's reviews. So for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, I was gonna try to be generous. I really was, but I don't think I can be. I think I have to be honest here. I'm going a C- on this one. It just didn't work. It just did not work for me. You know, it was good to be with some of the characters again, but yeah. So a bit of a disappointing way to end the year. Now I'll be interested to hear what all the bitching and moaning is now that it's done. But there you go. So that was 2019, folks. We're not quite done with 2019, because now that we've seen all the films from that year that I intend to see, now's the time to start compiling the lists. That's right. The end of year lists will be coming, and coming just as soon, the start of a new year. For Drive Home Reviews needs to enter the next decade, and we will be seeing our first film from 2020 momentarily. So, thank you all dedicated viewers, all the people who are fandoms, if I may, for supporting and watching and commenting and enjoying what I do. I know that there are no shortage of internet critics out there, and ones with way better production values and probably a lot more in the way of formal analysis and education than I. So the fact that you've watched one of mine, liked one of mine, have enjoyed what I do, it means a lot. It really does. So thank you for that, and I look forward to continuing into the next year. So with that in mind, as always, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.